Hi, thanks for watching. Thanks, you're watching? Is that what I just said?
Hi, Mr. Watching. Thanks for watching.
You're watching. I'm going to leave that because that's fun. Thank you for watching. This is our normal audio podcast for the TV show Once Upon a Time, but you probably knew that already. This is primarily an audio podcast, but we live stream it to YouTube when we do this live on Sunday nights as well as Wednesdays, but we only leave these short initial reactions public. If you want our full podcast with all of the discussions, theories, the feedback, all of that stuff, and a lot longer discussion and better thought out than what you're about to get, then go over to oncepodcast.com and subscribe to the regular audio podcast over there. And if you watch this, please leave a comment below to let us know. And here we go. Which all of that rhymes. And let it snow. You're listening to Once, episode 174, Shattered Sight, Initial Reactions. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
And we are happy that you are listening to us. We'll tell you about how you can send us your feedback on this episode of Once Upon a Time in a little bit. But we just finished watching Shattered Sight, and our thoughts are going to be a bit all over the place. So let's get into this messy stuff that happens sometimes with relationships and illumine you with a purple rock on what seems to be going on here with Once Upon a Time. I thought this episode was really good.
I agree.
I didn't like the ending.
What?
Well, it was beautiful. This was a very beautiful episode. The music, the soundtrack in this episode, I loved. I saw in our chat room during the live showing that some people thought the music was a bit over the top, but I really loved it. It made me feel like crying, and I am not a crier. How many times have I actually said that, though? Maybe I should change my position.
You are when it comes to movie and TV show soundtracks, though.
Yes, that's true. I am a sucker for a good soundtrack. And Mark Isham did a great job with this. Please give us the soundtrack to seasons 3 and 4. We will buy them and review them, and we will have you on the podcast. Seriously. But the whole thing of Ingrid suddenly being sorry.
Oh my, she turned on a dime.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I could have done with another, an episode of her storming off into the woods and brooding about it for a little while before she came to her senses fully.
This makes me wonder, is this a new pattern that Once Upon a Time is going to follow, where the episode before a mid-season or season finale is where they actually wrap up the main story arc?
Well, we did get 11 hours of this one.
Right, yeah, so we did get really a half a season.
What was funny was that I was worried because as the story was wrapping up, first of all, it wasn't expected. I wasn't expecting it, which kind of made it cool, but kind of made it sort of like, oh, I thought we had another week of this storyline to look forward to.
Yeah.
But the other thought was, good grief, is next week going to be a throwaway episode? Because I thought, what's left? I had forgotten about the hat and Rumple until right before they showed him. So there is a significant amount of plot left for the story arc. I'm assuming it won't be 100% resolved.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not my favorite part of the story, I realized suddenly when it was all that was left.
Right. Well, I think I have a lot to look forward to with Rumple being out on the loose. And I think he will get out. And that was something that back in, I think in our season 1 finale discussion, I said that I thought it would be cool to see if Rumple got out. He has all this magic and he's in a land without magic. He's the only magical one basically out there.
Yeah, I thought that back then we were going to see things happening worldwide.
Yeah. And we could see that then. That might be the second half here of season 4. Now that they've wrapped this storyline up very quickly with an apology.
Right.
But yes, Ingrid did discover that she got what she wanted. It's just a very sudden turn of events. But it is a different turn of events for a villain ending than they have done previously. So I'll give them that. That's a good thing that wasn't the same old, villain dies, villain gets captured, villain's curse gets stopped, anything like that.
I think there was supposed to be a lot in her touching the stone that maybe didn't get communicated as fully as might have been nice.
Right.
Things that... Because she hadn't lost her memories, and I think that's what was confusing for me. So she touches the memory stone. It's like she did remember her sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why that was so profound exactly. I think that seeing the letter, she realized that her sister had actually written it.
And realized that she did have that sisterly relationship that she wanted, even though she accidentally killed one of her other sisters.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't like the way that they ended it. I like the rest of the episode, just not the way that they ended it. But what did you think? We'd love to hear your comments on the show notes for this episode, number 174, as well as emailing us or calling in your feedback. You can send that and your other theories on this episode. Email it to feedback@oncepodcast.com and put in the subject line Shattered Sight. You can also call and leave a voicemail at 903-231-2221 or send a voice message through the website at oncepodcast.com.
Yeah, I think the thing is that yes, a lot of bad feelings can go away instantly when you learn the truth and that you were wrong. But the thing is, she had taken all her negative emotions and had gone so cuckoo. It seems improbable that she would be uncuckoo so quickly just because she learns the truth. But in a sense, that was her shattered sight. And it was taken away.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. Because she was seeing the bad in maybe she was around her own mirrors for too long.
Maybe. Yeah, so except for things moving a little quickly in that last scene, I thought it was really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
I would say this half season so far, story arc wise, is probably my favorite behind season 1.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I still think the first half of season 3 with Peter Pan is my favorite after season 1.
I'm going to put that right behind this.
Okay.
I've enjoyed this more.
Well, that's cool to know. That's quite a difference from what we were saying before this season actually started.
Right.
Some of the stuff we were a bit anxious about.
Mm-hmm. I still don't necessarily want to see a new villain twice a year who dies at the end. I don't want it to happen that way every single time, but for what it was, and for tying so well with Frozen, I think it's been well done.
I think Rumple is probably being set up to be the next villain because he'll get out, he'll wreak havoc. Maybe. Or maybe there will be some other villain introduced. Because here's another storyline that is continuing, is Elsa trying to find her sister. Well, no. I'm sorry. Forgot where the things actually went.
I thought Anna was gone again for a minute.
Yeah, I did too. I thought maybe they were sent all the way back to Arendelle, but not trying to find her sister. The continuing story will be getting back to Arendelle. So they need a portal then to get back to Arendelle.
Well,
how are they going to do that?
Unless things don't go quite as interestingly as we think they will.
Yeah.
If they stop Rumple next week, tie that one up fast, the apprentice makes an appearance coming out of the hat, he can just send them back.
Yeah, that's true, but I don't want that to happen because that's too convenient. I want to see Rumple on his rampage.
Rump page. I know. We got a little rampaging this week.
There was a lot of really funny stuff going on.
I knew they were going to just have fun with it, but I didn't expect to enjoy it. Regina finally marching through Storybrooke dressed as the evil queen.
Yeah, that was nice.
The laughing at the end was pretty good. What am I wearing?
And seeing Doc harassing Dopey. Saying, why don't you speak? Speak!
Right.
Just like rocking him back and
It knocked
forth.
it. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of death.
No, surprisingly, no one died. I thought
Just
someone
some
could die.
CRTs in the sheriff's office.
Yeah, well, they
Those
needed to
died.
go
Maybe they're
anyway.
gonna update the sheriff's office, and that was their excuse.
Speaking of sheriff, they mentioned Sheriff Graham.
Mm-hmm.
For a moment, I thought we might see him, but no.
No.
I think some people would have died if they saw
Why
him.
would we have seen him though?
Because Emma threatened to call him.
Oh, in the flash. Yeah. That would have been that would have been interesting.
We did get to see a lot of those neat tie-ins. And I think a lot of other movie references in this, like Henry went all Home Alone on Hook.
Right.
And then I'm sure any Star Trek fan out there is probably thinking this too. Regina came out of the vault going all Con on Emma,
Oh, I didn't think of that.
but saying Emma's name instead. It was a cool episode and nice to see the scroll did indeed have basically the solution to the curse without being an actual
Right.
solution to the curse.
I think the words that she spoke about it when she wrote it were maybe slightly misleading. The whole "it's the only thing that will save them" bit. Unless she just figured that the end of Elsa's powers was going to be bad.
Right.
If she didn't find a way to control it. And she thought somehow that that would help.
Well, and the rock trolls did say something in their prophecy back in the movie Frozen about how if you let fear control you, then this power will be horrible, basically. So it makes sense that they would look at this as this is what we need to do to save her, save them, is for them to know don't try to conceal, just let it go. Hook's part in this is still having me wondering what might be going on now that it seems like he doesn't have any other use for Rumple. It seems because Rumple's last deed that he wanted Hook to do was to get
Hook
Henry.
has no use for Rumple?
Sorry, other way around. Rumple seems like he might have no... I think I meant to say be no more use
Yes.
to Rumple.
Yes. I started to wonder after saying how silly it was to chain himself to the dock that he probably wasn't really going there. And indeed, he did not. I think we predicted that he might not be affected because he didn't have his heart, but I think that's also a little convenient.
Yeah.
Because Regina could have taken a lot of hearts and put them safely in the vault, and that would have solved everything.
Or buried him in a bucket of carrot sorbet.
Yes, the one flavor no one is ever going to order, so all your secrets are safe there.
I really look forward to rewatching this in our high definition version that we buy from iTunes to see what all of the other flavors were.
Probably things people would order unless you needed other hiding spots.
Yeah, that's where the memory stones were hidden, in case you're trying to figure out what we're talking about. Carrot sorbet. Now available at your local grocery store. I thought that this episode very nicely answered a lot of questions that we had, like questions about the memories, questions about the scroll, questions about what happened really between Ingrid and Emma in the past that Ingrid had to pull the memories, what happened in Storybrooke, what was their run-in there that Sydney had photographed.
Now, don't you think the appearance of Storybrooke was a little tame?
Yeah, my impression there was it looked like she was either at the city line or was supposedly standing in the middle of Storybrooke on that road, but she wasn't in Storybrooke because she wasn't able to be in Storybrooke. But that scroll made her suddenly like shift dimensions, basically.
Oh, I took it more like she was there because they gave a very specific date, which they don't usually do. And I thought that was the appearance of Storybrooke.
2001? No.
No?
Because Storybrooke, remember, had been there ever since the 80s. Storybrooke came over at the same time that Emma came over, or Storybrooke was made at that same time.
True. True. Okay, so I like your... Okay, that makes me feel better. She found a way to see it
Right.
when other people couldn't.
And this was shortly before Emma's 28th birthday that she showed up in Storybrooke, established herself there in the town with the ice cream shop and everything. So I think it fits all nicely together.
Okay, that makes me feel better. Because we saw the appearance of Storybrooke and it was not calm.
Right. Yeah, it reminds me of that episode, Welcome to Storybrooke, where young Owen or slash Greg was at the city line with the local sheriffs or some kind of law enforcement officers, and they were standing right there, and they couldn't see Regina inside of Storybrooke, right on the other side of this magical barrier. I think that's essentially what was happening with Ingrid, but the scroll allowed her to cross over, change dimensions, see the town, whatever. So, not quite Squid Ink, but I think more like opening her eyes a bit.
How do you suppose she made her ice cream before magic came to Storybrooke?
Maybe the old-fashioned way.
Maybe.
Because it did seem like she could not use her magic.
Yeah.
There with the fake gypsy, she tried to use her magic, but couldn't. That makes perfect sense because our land is a land without magic.
Right.
Emma, however, seems to be able to use her magic outside of Storybrooke, which would be something that Gold is very jealous of.
True.
But he now has all the power he needs to cleave himself from the dagger.
He's overusing that word for sure.
Speaking of overusing, something that is not being overused is oncepodcast.com/sponsor. We really appreciate your support of the podcast. Specifically for this episode, I want to thank Steve Johnson, Lisa Slack, David Newland, Kelsey Hunt, and DJ Firewolf. Thank you very much for your kind donations. All of these are ongoing subscribers that donate a certain amount every month to the podcast. And that's what really helps us the most. We're coming up on a hiatus. So we're coming up on a hiatus. So the per episode donations that we get through Patreon won't continue unless we release an episode. And we do have some plans on some things. Like we'll do probably a 1-episode review of Gallivant. We'll have a review of Into the Woods coming up. I will also do a review of Cinderella when that comes out, although that'll be around the same time that we're still podcasting about Once Upon a Time when the season returns. So those monthly donations really help the best. But you can also make a one-time donation, a per episode donation through Patreon. We've got 11 backers over there, or any of those options, even just shopping for Christmas stuff through oncepodcast.com/Amazon if you're in the US, or oncepodcast.com/AmazonCA if you're in Canada, and that really helps us. So thank you again, Steve, Lisa, David, Kelsey, and DJ. We really appreciate the support. If you want to be a sponsor of an episode as well, please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor.
And some gift ideas to use through that Amazon link for your Once Upon a Time loving friends and family: mirrors, swords, ice cream scoops,
a sword letter opener,
turnover pans, if that's a thing. It's probably not. Maybe a cookie sheet.
Messages in a bottle.
Or bottles to put those messages in.
Yeah.
Yeah, let us know what other gift ideas you can think of for Once Upon a Time fans.
And of course, the stuff like buy Frozen, buy Once Upon a Time, any of the seasons, buy a season pass to Once Upon a Time. They can watch it through Amazon Prime or something like that. Buy the posters, buy the soundtracks that have been released, buy any of that memorabilia that's out there.
I'm starting to feel like you're making an oath now. Buy the Ice Queen's necklace. Anyway. So speaking of her magic, though, she took Emma's memories before magic came to Storybrooke. So
that's true. But that might be because she took it with a magical item. Remember, some items had magical powers.
That's true. They used Jefferson's hat before that.
Yeah, and they had to power it with random items that Regina had that were magical.
Right.
Yeah, so there was limited and slightly unpredictable
precedent
magic.
for a magical hat absorbing magic.
Uh-huh.
Interesting. Hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, that's true. But in a very different reason.
Yeah, and inanimate objects.
It's more like feeding the DeLorean with random recyclable materials.
Yeah.
But we would love to have your thoughts and theories on this episode of
And
Once
your
Upon a
magical
Time.
items.
Yeah, just send those to us. Feedback@oncepodcast.com. Put in the subject line Shattered Sight. And you can also call and leave a voicemail at 903-231-2221 or go to the website oncepodcast.com and send a voice message through there. You can comment on the show notes for this episode at oncepodcast.com/174 and also join our forums over at oncepodcast.com/forums. Share your own theories over there. Comment on other people's theories, start your own conversations, respond to others. There are even games going on there in the forums and a lot of fun things. That's all at oncepodcast.com. If you don't remember anything else, just remember that web address, oncepodcast.com, and that's where you can get everything. Please connect with us on Twitter at oncepodcast, and I'm Daniel J. Lewis on Twitter at the Ramen Noodle.
And I'm Jeremy Laughlin on Twitter at Phlegon. That's PHLEGON.
Please send us your thoughts, theories, and join us for our upcoming full discussion. And until next time, remember, he's a baby, not a breakfast burrito. And thanks for listening. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Big thanks to the contributors for this episode of the podcast, helping keep the podcast alive and covering the expenses that we have in running the podcast. If you'd like to sponsor an episode with a one-time donation, an automatic monthly donation, or a per-episode donation, check out all of your options, including shopping through Amazon, over at oncepodcast.com/sponsor.